Well, thank you, Subcommittee Chairman Matt Salmon, for your work on this issue, for holding this hearing. Matt Salmon and I had an opportunity to go down and talk to Sergeant Andrew Tahmooressi in his cell, and I do want to share, Jill, I want to share with the Sergeant's mother an observation that I think that Sergeant Buchanan was absolutely right when he said this was one of the most impressive young men he had served with. He is a very, very fine young man. And he's been through a lot. I think this committee has played a role historically in trying to make certain that in foreign policy we look after the interests of those men and women who've served this country. And in this particular case, a young man who made a wrong turn and has now found himself 6 months after his diagnosis in this situation. Now, Matt and I had approached the government of Mexico on several occasions, and one of the things you had us do was to try to get him moved from the prison in Tijuana, and he is now in Tecate, and in a much better place, I must say. And he expressed that. And we are respectful of our relationship with Mexico, but it has been 6 months. And I now feel in our discussions, which we've had in the past with the ambassador, with the foreign minister, but now over the phone last Thursday, I had a long discussion with the Attorney General. And with the case, with the argument that I think we're making and making here today, the argument that he cannot get PTSD treatment, but less than 10 days before he was taken into custody, he was diagnosed with just that diagnosis. And as the Attorney General has shared with us, it is within his ability to make a decision based on humanitarian grounds if the diagnosis shows that this, in fact, was the case. And we sent him that diagnosis. And we sent him subsequently the diagnosis also that we have now from the doctor in Mexico. I think that, as Matt's raised this point, it is important to consider, since we've raised this with the State Department, our government took steps to have one soldier released in exchange for 5 senior Taliban leaders. 5 senior Taliban leaders who had all committed serious offenses, war crimes. All 5 would be hauled up in front of the Hague for crimes against humanity based upon the terror that they visited on Afghan and U.S. Forces. All 5 were determined to be a serious danger to the United States. And yet, at the end of the day, those 5, with close ties to Osama bin Laden and to Mullah Omar and to the Haqqani terrorist network, have all found their way out of custody. The question is, what steps has the government taken in order to ensure the release of this young Marine? And that brings us to why we're having the hearing today. And as members of Congress, we must see to it that U.S. servicemen and servicewomen who are put in harm's way to defend our country are properly cared for when they return back here to the United States, when they're injured, as Andrew was injured by a grenade. Mrs. Tahmooressi, I am pleased, I must say, that you're with us today, and I'm equally pleased that we have with us a brave Marine who served 2 tours, combat tours in Afghanistan. Your son did this, Jill, and we talked a little bit with him about his service. But during his time when he was deployed in Helmand Province with the 2nd Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment, he received a combat meritorious promotion, a battlefield promotion under meritorious conditions. Now, this speaks to his valor and to his love of country. and to discuss his service. It's an honor to have Robert Buchanan with us today. I met Robert at my office back some months ago when he came to talk to me about his comrade and about the effort he was undertaking, along with you, Jill, in order to secure his release. And he served with your son, as you know, and said, as I indicated to you, that not only was he a fine young man, he also told me he was one of the bravest young men he had served with. And I must admit here, too, that Robert has been very brave himself and earned the Purple Heart after sustaining injuries himself from an IED explosion. And we want to thank him and others for traveling all the way here to Washington. And as many of you know, these physical injuries as a result of that IED attack that Andrew sustained leads at times to psychological difficulties that we call PTSD. And the fact that the San Diego Veterans Affairs Hospital diagnosed him less than 10 days prior to this event on the border, and the fact that it results in hypervigilance and memory and cognition lapses and depression, the fact that he will not be able to receive treatment in Mexico. And so the treatment's been prolonged by 6 months. It is because of this that I, together with Congressman Salmon, have pressed this case with the Attorney General of Mexico. And last week, after our conversation, I must say that I am confident that a humanitarian release of Andrew will occur very soon so he can start getting better and get the treatment he needs. And I believe the case that is being made here is a compelling one that will result in the right decision, the correct decision, the humane decision from the Attorney General. Thank you very much.